we were talking at the end of the 3 o'clock hour about this NCAA court case issue that is out there today. And, I mean, Mike sent us a message, said, so who's going to be the first quarterback to transfer at halftime of a game?
I've had enough.
I don't know. You're down, tight game, but
never mind that. You think some quarterback. Let's say State's playing Toledo, right? And the quarterback for whoever Toledo's quarterback is just killing them. How quickly can you put an NIL package together, get that guy to transfer mid-game to Mississippi State? Just bring him on over, coach, and let him go.
Yeah,
let him cook.
I mean, I guess he has to be admitted to school also. There would have to be a lot of work.
Dr. Keenum is in attendance. He'll push the right buttons
in a short amount of time to pull that off. But it is crazy, and it's different, right? It's different than it's ever been. If you're looking for an upside, because there's plenty of downside to this, but based on what we have grown up watching and grown up experiencing. If you're looking at an upside, Borky, we've always said, even as we've gone into this NIL era, that, well, Georgia has an unfair advantage. Well, when haven't they had an unfair advantage, right? Like, when we were in an under-the-table era of football, Alabama always got the guys. We're in a free market, open society in football. Alabama gets players. Go figure.
They were doing that before.
And they're doing it now. Yeah. But if you're looking for an upside here, we had more teams that were in the mix for the college football playoff this year. We're going to a 12-team playoff next year. The door is open for more teams to be relevant, specifically in college football, than has maybe ever been the case.
You can make it really, really local and say number of Ole Miss 10-win seasons prior to the portal and NIL, 0. In the NIL era, 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're an Ole Miss fan and you're like, oh, the rich are getting richer, look at your own team. You've gotten richer.
I mean, look, seriously, the status of Ole Miss football has changed thanks a lot.
The program has been completely elevated by this.
Because they had a coach that was willing to use portal, and they had the right people at the right time that were willing to organize and fund the collective. And maybe that's not how it should be, but there were people that had the foresight, whose names that nobody talks about, that had the foresight to say, this is how it is now. You can either fund it and raise money and pay the players and win, or you can whine and carry on and complain about how awful it is and lose. Pick one. And those people –
I'm sorry. I had a little thing in my – I'm fine. Go ahead.
But those people Did you say Jan Moen?
I just coughed.
It just – okay.
It was just a random noise that I made when I coughed right then.
But those people are why Ole Miss is in the position that they're in, retaining the players that they want to retain to this point, and they are active in the portal with – I mean, they casually got the number one linebacker in the transfer portal. And, like, it's already – people have already just kind of forgotten about that. They are in position now in ways that they haven't been in the past. And we're 3 years into this. So it's new, but it's not that new. And we have a sample size of high school players being more spread out than they've ever been. Now, Alabama's still going to sign a top 5 class, as is Georgia and Ohio State. But the depth is spreading more evenly across the landscape of college football. It's going to happen again in this signing class as well. Players are more spread out than they've ever been. You've got backups and third stringers at Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State that are not waiting around anymore. You have an Ohio State transfer to Cincinnati. Cincinnati can never compete with Ohio State for recruits, but they can get Ohio State players.
Well, and to your point about Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin was transparent. I started to use the word honest, and maybe he was honest, but he was transparent from the beginning. Mm-hmm. You remember what he said? He said, I don't like this. I don't really think it's good for college football. But these are the rules by which we are playing right now, And this gives a place like Ole Miss the ability to compete and build a roster in a way that previously was very difficult to do. And Ole Miss fans basically said, amen, we're in. I mean, I'm obviously taking some liberty in exactly how it unfolded, but Lane Kiffin said, look, if you are Ole Miss, you cannot go sign a high school recruiting class that looks like the one that Alabama and Georgia signed. Just can't do it. It's not a knock. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. But now you have access to players that you didn't have access to before, and it gives you the chance to put yourself in a place that is special. And make no mistake about it, as good as this season was, what was Ole Miss ranked preseason? Mid-18?
19th, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's a great place to start the season. And then they went out and they proved it. They won 10 games. They lost to the two best teams on their schedule. One of them was relatively close on the scoreboard, but not that close in actuality. The other, Georgia, was close in neither. It was not close on the scoreboard. It was not close on the field. But they won all of their other games, including a really good win against Texas, some close wins, the road win against Tulane, all of that stuff. What the beginning of next season is going to feel like, whether you like it or not, pales into comparison to what it felt like going into this season.
What was Ole Miss preseason 2 years ago?
I don't know.
Like 13th or 14th, right?
Yeah.
So they'll be a little higher than that this year. It should be a preseason top 10.
It's going to be top 10.
Adam Rittenberg thinks they could crack the top 5 depending on how they finish in the portal.
That's what I was going to say. If they get the defensive lineman from Texas A&M and they get the edge rusher / linebacker from Florida, and they fill out a couple of more pieces on the offensive line, there's a very real chance that this is a top 5 team going into next season. Now, you hope that you don't have 2009, 2008, 2009. What year was it? The South Carolina early season?
2009.
You would like to not have a repeat of that. I mean, you might prefer.
Let's say, who's you? Who's you in that?
You, if you're an Ole Miss
you guys
type.
Can disagree with me. I know this is a bit of a hot take, but I do think Lane Kiffin is a better football coach than Houston Nutt generally. So,
yeah, probably I'll go with that. I saw a really funny graphic today. I think it was Owen 3 put it together. It was top 5 coaching hires in the last 5 years. Number 1 was Sam Pittman. Kiffin was 4th. It was a freezing cold take, so he must have done it like 2 years ago. Kiffin was 4th.
Mel Tucker was on that list, number 2.
And Mel Tucker was 2. Yeah.
Sports Talk.